Money shame is something that can happen to all of us, and I think it's important to differentiate guilt versus shame. Guilt is something external, whereas shame is something internal. Guilt is external. I made a mistake, whereas shame is internal. I am a mistake. I am bad. And so when it comes to money guilt and money shame, I think a lot of people use those two terms interchangeably, but they're different. So money guilt would be, oops, I made a mistake with money, external. Whereas money shame would be, I'm bad with money. And money shame can make it really difficult to understand the basics of finances, to take meaningful action on your financial goals, to even figure out what are my values and what are my financial goals. So in this video, I'm going to talk about why you have to talk about money shame and some steps to help start releasing it from your life. My name is Lindsay. I'm the founder of Mind Money Balance. I'm a certified financial therapist and licensed social worker, and I help you with the intersection of money and mental health. Money shame is something that comes up all the time, but I think a lot of people, because they don't understand the difference that I highlighted at the top of this video, they assume that money shame is only something that happens when we make mistakes. I only will have money shame if I have debt or if I had to declare bankruptcy, right? We think that if we get quote unquote good with money, we understand the ins and outs of finances, then we'll no longer feel ashamed about money. But that's just not true, because shame is something deeper. It is something internal where we believe it has something to do with who we are, and it has something to do with the character or the type of person that we are. Shame is so icky. The way that shame works is when we experience shame or embarrassment, it triggers a reminder of all the different times that we've experienced shame. So when we experience a moment of money guilt, and it triggers that money shame, we often think about all the other times that we've felt money shame, and then we start imagining that the only times we've had associations with money is when they are shame-based. Let me give you an example. If you swipe your credit card and it gets declined, that's a mistake. Something happened somewhere and you weren't able to have that charge go through, and you've experienced money shame before, embarrassment, or this idea that you are bad with money. All of a sudden, swiping that card and having it not go through can trigger a wave of all of the times where you've had that embarrassment around money. Oh my gosh. This reminds me of the time when I went out to dinner with my friends and I was so embarrassed that I didn't realize we were splitting the bill evenly, and I ordered an appetizer and water, and then I had to pay for other people's things like wine and big entrees and fancy desserts, and I felt so embarrassed that I had stretched myself so thin and didn't speak up for myself or advocate for myself to only pay for the things that I purchased. Or it triggers the memory of taking out huge student loans at the age of 18, 19, 20, and not fully understanding that it's going to take a long time to pay those off, and feeling like you were kind of duped or tricked, but also feeling embarrassed that you thought you should know something that you didn't know. Or the first time you got a big kid job and you were so excited and you were putting money away in your 401k, only to find out 3 years later that all the money you were putting away in your 401k was sitting in cash and wasn't invested. So this swipe of the credit card triggers all of these memories around the times that you felt embarrassed or ashamed with money, and it can be really hard to take just this one instance and examine it all by itself without having all of those other reminders of the times that you've experienced money shame. According to our friend Brene Brown, and extensive shame researcher, she says that there are 3 things that can make shame worse: secrecy, silence, and judgment. Secrecy, silence, and judgment, particularly judgment, runs really rampant in the personal finance community. Think, if you buy latte, you're pissing money away. Or you bought a house before you paid off your student loans, you're so stupid. We love to judge people for what they do or what they don't do, and the personal finance industry loves holding up this stereotypical model of a person who's good with money and putting everybody else who falls outside of that very narrow example into a category of being bad with money. In addition to the personal finance community judging you around what you should or shouldn't do with money, we also get judgment from our peers, from our colleagues, from our religions, from our neighborhoods, and from our communities. So there's judgment coming at us always. I can't believe you didn't tithe 10%, depending on what religious community you're in. Or, oh my gosh, I can't believe my neighbors bought a boat. What a waste of money. We judge and we are judged all the time. Money is also something that is considered taboo, and in most circles, there is this built-in secrecy and silence. Secrecy is actively withholding information, whereas silence is just kind of keeping things quiet. They're related, but different. Money secrecy, actively withholding information, might look like getting a credit card statement and shredding it before your partner can see it. Money silence could look like avoiding discussing money. For example, if a friend asks you, hey, I know you just got a new job. What are they paying you? Instead of saying, oh, they're paying me $110,000, you would skirt the subject and be like, I'm not really comfortable talking about money, right? You shut it down. And we shut down money conversations, and we often receive being shut down in money conversations all the time. Think about if you were a kid and you ever said to your parent or your caregiver, how much money do we make? Or can we afford this thing? As an innocent question, because you're trying to make sense of the world and trying to understand what's happening around you, and your parent or caregiver says, shh, we don't talk about that. Money talk is rude. We're given this message that talking about money is rude. We've talked about the 3 things that make money shame worse, but let's talk about things that can help with money shame. Specifically, why you have to talk about why you feel so bad about money in order to heal it. Going back to what Brené Brown has found is that there are 4 things that can help with shame: naming, empathy and compassion, social support, and education. Let's start at the bottom with education, because I think that's where most people really focus their energy and their attention, is education or literacy. And if you've been here a minute, you know that my take is that financial literacy is a great baseline, but it is not enough to actually enact change. In the personal finance community, there's a big push that you need to understand credit scores and interest rates and compound interest and the importance of negotiating for a raise. While yes, all of those things are true, we do need to educate ourselves on that. Education alone, information alone, does not lead to transformation. So educate yourself for sure to help dial down money shame, but we need those other 3 things too. We need to be able to name our shame. We need to be able to talk about it in community. And we also need to be able to have empathy and compassion for that sensation. Let's talk about naming it. In the therapy community, there is a very annoying but accurate tagline that is name it to tame it. In other words, name the thing that is causing you distress in order to dial down the intensity of that distress. And that works with money shame too. Simply saying, hey, I did this thing. It is a mistake. It is external for me, but I am feeling the shame, the internal belief that I'm bad with money, can help to decrease the intensity of that money shame. The way that we name our money shame matters, and that's why the next thing, empathy and compassion, really comes into play. Practicing financial empathy and compassion means being nice to yourself and acknowledging that, yeah, you made a mistake, but making a mistake doesn't make you a bad person. And I find that in our rugged, individualistic world, a lot of us have bought into this idea that being kind to ourselves or having compassion toward ourselves is somehow like letting ourselves off the hook, or that if we are kind to ourselves or extend some empathy and compassion to ourselves, that somehow that angry gremlin that can push us to take action will disappear and we won't know how to self-motivate any longer. It's actually not true. When you acknowledge a mistake and you own up to it, you are very much facing the reality of the mistake that you made. And not beating yourself into a pulp for having made that mistake is key in alleviating shame, which means we have to have compassion toward ourselves for the mistake that we made. Let's say you were in the market for a new to you vehicle, and the intensity of shopping for a vehicle was really stressful. And so you did start to do some research and compare and contrast different cars and their safety ratings and their gas mileage, but you could feel in your body that you were so overwhelmed by it that you went to a dealer and you bought the first car that was within your price range, only to find out that you were overcharged quite a bit. Instead of coming from a place of self-judgment for having made that mistake and overpaying for that vehicle and going, oh my gosh, I'm so stupid. What's wrong with me? Why did I do that? I can't believe I wasted that money. We can have some compassion for it. We can honor ourselves by saying things like, my nervous system was so overwhelmed when trying to shop for a new car that the best way that I could dial down the intensity and the overwhelm of car shopping was to go to a dealer. Even though I know I was likely overcharged for that, it actually saved me a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of comparisonitis and perfectionism by buying a vehicle. And the reality is, I need a vehicle now. I don't need a vehicle in 3 months or 6 months or 8 months that it might have taken me if I had done all of the research on my own. And yes, I overpaid, and I can learn from this that the next time I need to buy a vehicle, there might be some support systems that I can get into place so that my nervous system isn't so overwhelmed. That's acknowledging the mistake and acknowledging why you made the mistake. My nervous system was freaking out. I was finding myself in these spirals of trying to compare and contrast, and it was stressing me out. And that compassion can help to dial down that money shame. The next thing is getting support from others. Getting support from others can help to normalize and validate your financial mistake and your money shame, and can help to take the intensity of some of that shame off. With this example of shopping around for a car and finding out that you'd overspent, instead of beating yourself up for it, we could maybe go to a friend who gets us, who understands, who has been alongside us on our anxiety-fueled journeys or perfectionistic journeys, and say like, oh my gosh, I totally overpaid for this car. I'm super embarrassed about it. I'm experiencing some money shame. I can't really undo this mistake, but I'm saying this to share with you the next time that I need a car, I need you or somebody else in our friend circle to lovingly hold me accountable. And that might look like just coming with me to the car dealership. Is that something you think you could do? If you don't have somebody in your circle that you can talk to about money shame, there are 2 things that you can consider. One is to turn to the internet and see if you can find other communities of people who've experienced similar situations. Or 2 is to test the waters with a money shame experience that maybe isn't quite as charged. So maybe overspending on a car feels really, really intense, but maybe the car insurance that you had to buy and asking your friend for some guidance on how to not overpay for car insurance feels a little bit more accessible to you. So 1 would be turn to online communities for support, or 2 would be testing the waters with a money mistake that maybe isn't quite as intense to help get you used to talking about money stuff. We have to talk about our money mistakes. We don't have to tell the entire world. We don't have to go on the internet and blast our deepest, darkest money secrets in order to heal. If you're feeling like you don't have a person in your corner that you feel safe enough to share your money mistakes with, it's more than appropriate to talk to a therapist about this. Even if you don't have a financial therapist available to you, since unfortunately there aren't that many of us, many therapists are trained to help people with guilt and with shame and can probably lend their expertise to you in that area. So finding a therapist can be incredibly helpful if you feel like talking to your peers just is way too intense for you. But to recap, secrecy, silence, judgment makes money shame worse, and naming your shame, having empathy and getting some social support and making meaning of that mistake and education can help to make shame better. Thanks for being here. As always, I'll see you in the next video.